Hi Stampers, this is Jennifer Timko from Stampin' on the Fly, and I'm here today to talk to you about how I made this Peace and Joy card using the salt technique with reinkers. Now I'm here to tell you this is not an original technique, and in fact I recently watched a video from Jennifer McGuire that inspired me to try this with my reinkers. I think she used a different kind of medium, but the reinkers work beautifully for it. So I want to show you how to do that so that you too can create this amazing sky background. I did it yesterday with one of my stamp classes, and you wouldn't believe the beautiful variety that we got for our backgrounds, and everyone's sky looked phenomenal. So let's get right to it. We are going to start with an A2 size piece of watercolor paper. So right here. For today, I am actually using the Tim Holtz Distress watercolor paper because it's already cut to this A2 size, so that makes it easier, and that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. But truly just use your favorite watercolor paper, whatever works for you. And I'm going to show you, I use these little containers. I hoard them, I save them, so we have some that held embossing powder, we have some that held buttons and brads and clothespins, but I use them as my little storage containers, mostly because they have lids, which helps me contain a mess. So I used these yesterday in class. I haven't even cleaned up from that. This is Blackberry Bliss reinker already in there for me. And this one, looks like I need to reload it, is Night of Navy. And so I'm gonna go ahead and put a couple of drops of Night of Navy reinker in there so that I have that. And it's nice because you can seal this up, and so you can come back to another day or whatever. So, and then over here, I had this one with the lid on for sure, and for good reason. I have these little chipboard pieces that come in all our kits and all these other packaging. I now save them thanks to one of my customers who told me how she used them, which is just like this to protect your work surface. Thought it was pretty brilliant. Thanks, Darlene. And so I now have copied her. So I'm just going to take a plain old paintbrush, and I'm going to put just a layer of water down on the paper, and that just helps your color start to blend from the second you put it down. Now, if you were really fancy, like some people who are definitely way fancier than me, you could go ahead and tape this down and it wouldn't bend and curl, but I tend to work kind of on the fly, thus the name of my blog. So that's kind of where we're going to go today. I have my aqua painter, and I'm going to pick up a little bit of this Blackberry reinker, and I'm going to start squeezing a little water too, and we're going to see how, oh yeah, isn't that cool? And we just get a little color, and I only want a little bit of the purple because it's kind of an undertone for my sky. And then I'm going to rinse off my aqua painter a little bit. Not that it really matters. That's just me and my OCD. And now I'm going to come in and I'm going to add my Night of Navy on top. And you can see this is not very precise. That's okay. Precision is not something you actually require on this technique. And you can decide how dark or light you want your sky to be. If you want a little more depth of color, and a little less water, you can just use a paintbrush. My aqua painter obviously is pretty loaded with water. So if that's not the look you're going for and you want something that has a little more color to it, then just use a plain paintbrush. And I just keep coming back and adding until this looks okay. And let's face it, it looks pretty much like a train wreck right now, and that's kind of how it's going to look. My girls yesterday looked at me like I was crazy, and you know I am, and they didn't believe me. They didn't until their results were spectacular. So here's the secret to this: salt. The poor Penzies people are probably crying knowing that I'm using this for my cards instead of my cooking, but this is a Penzi salt that I can use in my salt grinder. So I have this is what I have in my house, so that's what gets used here because I don't generally go out shopping for extra stuff. And I'm gonna start, I'm just gonna hold this down a little bit, flatten it out. Again, if you had it taped down, this would probably work better. And I'm just gonna take some of these big old chunks. You can see I'm just applying it here. Sort of you know, random. And then I'm gonna let that sit for a sec. And I'm gonna go over here, and now I have just another container that has table salt in it. Plain old, whatever you have in your house, table salt. And now I'm gonna take that, and this is your real money maker on this. I mean, the big ones are cool, but this, and you just kind of sprinkle it around, and it doesn't look like I did anything, but trust me, I sprinkled it. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just let this sit here and record for a couple minutes, and you're gonna get to see what happens as it dries. Okay, I'm back, and I let this get nice and dry. You can see this cool effect that has been left behind. Now, like I said, the little salt particles are the ones that sort of made this happen, but then there's the big ones, and the salt just sucks up the water. And with the water, it sucks up a little bit of your dye, the reinker, and it leaves this amazing effect behind. So all you have left to do, and I'm probably gonna make a glorious mess doing this, but I did this into the trash can yesterday during the class. But you can see I'm just scraping the salt off using my bone folder. I'm gonna just take this off to the side into my trash can. I have enough glitter and everything else around my house. The last thing I need is salt added into the fray. And you can sort of see, hopefully, it actually does leave a little bit of the sparkle behind. You can decide, I'm gonna brush it off a little bit more. But I do find that it leaves a little bit of the salt kind of on the paper. And that is great for me because it just adds a little bit more sparkle. So, and there we have our background. Isn't that awesome? Now this one is not totally and completely dry. What I did yesterday for my class is we did this very, very first, and we went and made another 3 cards, and then we came back to this one when they were all totally dry. This is the one I actually made yesterday. You can see, even though I did pretty much exactly the same technique, they do just look a little bit different. That's kind of what you want to happen. And then all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring this frame in. This is from the Project Life. I'm gonna brain dump the name on it, but it's the cards and pockets, I think, framelits, but I'll write it in the video because you know that's what I have to do because I seem to make up names as I go along half the time. In fact, my friends thought for a long time that the Stamp-A-Majig, that's what I called it because I couldn't remember the name. So that's how it goes. So I'm just gonna kind of decide how I want my sky to look when I cut this, and I'm gonna zip that through my Big Shot. I have my Big Shot ready off on the side, and I'm gonna zip it through for you. It's kind of hard to bring it into my frame, so just bear with me here. And you can hear it snap, crackle, and pop its way over. And there I have my background for my card. Now what I've done, I've gone ahead and done some pre-cutting here. I'm going to move this out of the way. I'm going to get you a prettier background to be able to see things on. Now you know how it looks behind the scenes here. And I'm going to bring out, so and the black helps so I think you can see. I have these framelits. They're the Sleigh Ride edgelets dies. And I wanted you to see how I arranged these. I cut, and all I did, and this, you know, my measurements usually have kind of a purpose because the end result is I'm going to end up doing this. So you want to have enough on the bottom here that you have some play. And I cut these little houses right off to the side here. Now I wanted to show you a couple of things with these edgelets, so that's why I brought them onto the screen. First of all, I found that when you're running them through your Big Shot, and I'm going to apologize now for my plate because my plate is pretty bad, but you want to send it through your Big Shot this way. So when you're sending it through, it's going to go right this way. I started off sending them through this way, and I was not getting a result that I loved, and I had a really, really hard time getting these to pop out. And then I had my friend Lisa explain to me that it was because it was such a quick pressure and then they were off, versus rolling it this way where it has an even pressure all the way down. Well, that certainly made sense, didn't it? And so once I did that, my result was substantially better. So, and then all I do is I have these little wooden skewers. I use them for a lot of things in my craft room. You know, I'm telling you, my kitchen just comes to my craft room. But I kind of use these little wooden skewers to start pushing on these pieces so that I don't lose any of my houses when I'm pulling them apart. But they really do kind of start to pop right out. I do find that the little chimney stack is the one that gives me the most trouble. But there you go. You can start to see that they start to kind of just release right away, which is exactly what you want to happen. And then all I have left to do is poke out my little windows. And that certainly goes very quickly. And then I have the same thing. I did my Dazzling Diamonds is this beautiful glimmer paper, and I did the same thing. I now cut over to this edge, again trying to get as much to play with these trees as I possibly could get. And I do find whatever it is, there's like almost like a fabric nature to whatever it is that holds this glitter on this paper. I don't know, this paper is kind of magical in my opinion. But if I just use my excuse me, my little skewer to hold my trees in places, I pull it away, then that happens super easy. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these two together to create my little scene, and I'm going to just kind of position them, and then I'm going to position them into my frame. And you can see I didn't move it over quite enough in there. And then I can move it up and down depending on how much I want to be able to stamp down here. And this is how I'm going to run this through my Big Shot for the final result. And then I'm going to do that for you, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you how to do the final assembly on this card. Just pull them off, and I have my little scene that's going to layer perfectly, as you can see, onto my card. And now the only thing I did is I did just glue this down to the watercolor paper, just using your regular adhesive, and I popped this one after stamping my sentiment with Night of Navy ink. I went ahead and just popped it up on dimensionals. And then the final step, I'll just bring my card in. I love this awesome new embossing folder, and so I just love that it has this snowflake background. So I went ahead and lined it up with the top of my card, and hopefully you can see the snowflake details there. And that was just to add a little bit of extra to the card. And then I went ahead, using my envelope punch board, I punched the corners right here and here. And the envelope punch board has exactly the same corners as the Project Life framelits on how the angles of the rounding, so they match up perfectly. And the very last thing I did, so you can see, I stamped Peace and Joy. This comes from Holly Jolly Greetings, and you can piece together whatever phrase you want. I put this layer here up on dimensionals to give it a little bit of extra on the seam. I put the whole panel up on dimensionals on the back of the card here. And then the final touch I added, just sort of add my version of a star, is the new iced rhinestones. These things are fantastic. They come in big and little. I just chose one of the little ones and I put it right up there. And I'm finished with my card. This one, the technique is a wow. Quite frankly, it would be awesome for an assembly line kind of thing. Once you have your re-inker going, you might as well have all those papers lined up. Do them all at once, let them dry, and you could make 10 of these in about, I don't know, 5 more minutes than it takes you to make one of them, I think. And that's sort of my intention. So for those of you who get Christmas cards from me, shh, don't look. You might see this later in the mail. So thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this technique. If you have any questions, don't be afraid to email me or send me any questions about it. Hope to see you again on my blog and hope to see you again soon. Thanks, bye.